Allan is a former Boston Celtics draft choice, former president and co-owner of a 32-office brokerage, and the former CEO of Realtor.com. And obviously, we want to give Gino, you brought Allan back, and Chris, for sharing him for home services and the Berkshire Hathaway Network. But Allan, we're excited about having you, buddy.
You know, when you hear Vince start off and he tells like a story, like a joke like that, it really tells you how much you have to respect the real comedians and what they do when they're really funny. Okay? And, you know,
well, Allan was a great keynote speaker. Now let's add on.
You typically, when somebody invites you to the, you don't get guest shamed. I guess they can't hear in the back. But like I said, typically when you go to somebody's home, you don't expect to be guest shamed, as I was, and especially by one of their kids. Okay, and but Vince is a fantastic dad, because even though we were having dinner, he was doing schoolwork with his dad, and his wonderful son Ty said, "Hey, Dad, how do you spell Mississippi?" And Vince said, "Well, depends on if it's the river or the state." Okay? Okay. Okay, so we don't have a clicker that works, but before I get to the presentation, I've got to say this. It's truly humbling to be in, you know, years ago they used to say that Yankee Stadium was the house that Ruth built, and this is the palace. This is the real estate cathedral that Vince built. And it's just amazing to be introduced by him. And I also must say that something else is coming to fruition. When I was in high school, I remember reading, "You shall know a prophet in the future because he will be wearing sandals." And I don't think this is still working. Is it? Okay, great. Can you hear in the back? Thank you. Also, it's very humbling to be here in the presence of Gino Blefari. I remember in the book, The Old Man and the Sea, Ernest Hemingway wrote that there are a lot of good fishermen, there are a few great fishermen, and then there's Grandpa, there's you. Well, there's a lot of good people in real estate, there's a few great people, and then there's Gino Blefari. Gino, it's so great that you're here as the CEO. The clicker doesn't work, so Maggie's going to help me from the computer itself. So let's go to the first slide. So I try to be as contemporaneous as possible and relevant. So if Vince is going to use the exaggerated statement of explosion, I'm going to use implosion, because I think that while we need to explode in a lot of different ways, we've got to be careful that we don't implode. And the next slide. And so if we're going to make sure that we do not implode, we need to become more strategic as an industry. And anytime I make a presentation, I like to reference what I believe are the 4 most or 5 most strategic observations that I've ever come across in all my years in real estate. The first is from the Dean of the Stanford Business School. And the Dean of Stanford Business School said that everybody must compete in 2 ways. First, for a positional advantage, and then for a corresponding capabilities advantage. He likened a positional advantage to McDonald's. They've got worldwide, ubiquitous locations, but if they don't develop a corresponding capabilities advantage, a more nutritional menu, a drive-through window, that their positional advantage will recede. So over the next 2 days, every single idea you have, I would encourage you to ask yourself, does this give me a greater positional advantage? Does this give me a greater capabilities advantage? The next most strategic thought comes from the Harvard Business School. The dean wrote in the Harvard Business Review that every business should ask themselves 2 questions. Number 1, what do we do that our competitors do, but that we do better? And number 2, what do we do that none of our competitors do? And this is very important, because sometimes in the information age, we're so overwhelmed and drowned with information and data that it's difficult to synthesize and try to infer what is really the most important information we're receiving. And if you don't have a framework to guide that inference, it can be chaotic. And so again, when you hear things that while you're here, would this help me do something better than my competitors are doing? Would this help me do something that none of my competitors are doing? The next most strategic thing has to do with Confucius. Confucius once said that all wisdom begins by properly naming things. And if we don't properly name things, kingdoms will fall and dynasties will tumble. So throughout my presentation, I'm going to give examples of things that have been improperly named that could lead to implosion, if you don't mind me continuing with that exaggerated metaphor. The next one here is Shakespeare. Shakespeare said that actions must suit the words and words must suit the actions. Now, why is that important? Because what's going to happen over the next 5 or 10 years is going to be, we're going to pick up on what's happened in the last 5 or 10 years. Every single person in this industry is going to now self-proclaim to be a trusted advisor. Okay? It's not that there was a tremendous, miraculous metamorphosis, okay, that led to that definitional shift. It's just that that's what's in the wind, okay? So every day, I'm a trusted advisor. Well, what makes somebody a trusted advisor? I think we have to forensically evaluate that, because otherwise it's going to be the laughing stock of all time amongst consumers. Okay, next. Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs once said that most people think the key to success is market segmentation, but it's desegmentation. You should look for the largest swath of commonality and address that. One of the reasons why agents in California, on average, make a lot more money than the top producers in other markets, including the East Coast, where the price ranges are similar, the mobility profile is similar in terms of people moving every 9 or 10 years. But the differential is this: in California, there's 71 municipalities that have more than 100,000 people in population. We have one of the most illustrious coaches in the country here, in Debbie DeGroat, who was in Huntington Beach, and she knows that. So there's like 200,000 or 300,000 people in Huntington Beach. If you were the #1 agent in the capital of Vermont, good luck. Montpelier, the population is 8,600 people. And so what happens, a lot of people come into the business, their manager says, oh, put the list of everybody that you know, that's your sphere of influence. Oh, look at you. You belong to the Greek Orthodox Church. There's your marketplace. That person's out of the market in a year. Or somebody says, I'm the condo king and there's 3 condo buildings in town. Or somebody, I'm an equestrian specialist and there's 3 horse properties. So we've got to make sure that in the company that I was the president and co-owner for 20 years, we built the company from 1 office to 32 offices and 28 affiliates. We had agents who were, if they were in one town, Saddle River, if they drove 2 minutes into another MLS, they thought they were crossing the Himalayas, okay? And so we have to make sure that we help people understand addressable markets, how to paint on a larger canvas, okay? And not just a segment. The whole world of technology is geared on trying to do hyper-local, and sometimes we capitulate to the ease in which they want to demographically identify markets. And a lot of agents have their careers stultified because years ago the MLS boundaries were too limited, okay? So we have to take our services, and that's why what Vince has done, the genius as he is here, this regional sales and marketing center is a great example of very efficient use of brick and mortar. This is an amazing facility. This is the mecca for affirmations, okay? This is a mecca for collegiality and synergism. And this is a great prototype for the industry that more mirrors what other Fortune 500 companies do. And you're ahead of your time, Vince, and I honor you for that. The next quote has to do with Stan Lee. Stan Lee is known for the Marvel method. Stan Lee was the progenitor of all of the iconic Marvel characters. And the Marvel method meant that you first identify what is distinctive in the properties of the iconic character, and then you develop a corresponding narrative. And we have people here from both Home Services of America, Gino, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Chris Stewart. And speaking to Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, what Chris Stewart is doing, unlike any CEO I've ever seen in the history of the industry, he is creating goods and services and value propositions that are consistent with the brand properties of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. And so it's very, very important that that be observed. The next strategic, so a great example, rather, of what do we do that no one else does? This is my former company. Joe Murphy, our chairman and founder, was on the cover here. We did homes guides 30 years ago in 6 different languages: Chinese, Russian, Spanish, Korean, Japanese, and English, in 4 color 30 years ago. Were we ahead of our time? We built our company on that differentiation, because you have to have something. The more complex the world is, the more the only simple messages get through. You've got to have something that's so resonant, so powerful, okay? And that's why the world is going with simplicity. Look at the #1 juggernaut in the world, Google. It's like almost primitive, Google. Okay, that's how simple you've got to keep things. And then obviously, I created a slogan for the state of New Jersey that was in 8 tourism bureaus. I'm here on the right, Joe on the left, and in the middle, Senator Lautenberg. Everyone used to always say, New York's a great place to visit, but I wouldn't want to live there. So I co-opted and subsumed part of that slogan with New Jersey's a great place to visit and an even greater place to live. Now, why is this important? Because I believe that we have a tremendous value problem in the industry, potentially. We don't have an image problem. I've said this many times. When it comes to our image, as an industry, we couldn't be better off. We're prodigiously photoshopped. We're resplendently dressed. We invented personal promotion. We've been writing our own rave reviews for 50 years. And the parking garages across the country, especially here, are brimming with BMWs and other luxury automobiles. And speaking of luxury automobiles, I'm amazed that Vince would shame me about my dinner behavior, because last night it took him 25 minutes to be able to figure out how all of us could fit into his car with the seats, okay? Because he has so many automobiles. Vince, just learn at least how one of them works. Hey, where's Vince, okay? I mean, he's got the CEO of Home Services America pounding on his seat to move up his seat. The CEO of Home Services America, okay? I mean, give me a break. Anyway, so now here's the whole thing. What do we do that other people do that we do better? What do we do that no one does? Well, where's that opportunity? First of all, what percentage of realtors have access to IDX? Everybody. MLS, the internet, open houses, for sale signs. So there's not but I'm a better negotiator. Well, explain your negotiating philosophy. I'm a better stage. Okay, great. Who doesn't say that? And so if somebody is really going to do something, if somebody's really going to hearken back to what the Dean of Stanford said, okay, what's your capabilities advantage? IDX doesn't give anybody here a capabilities advantage. Neither does open houses, but I do this at the open house. It's on the margin, okay? What the problem with our industry is that essentially we are out of step with the real estate behavior of the consumer in this respect. According to the National Association of Realtors, 76% of people are more likely to compromise on the home that they buy than the town or city. Does that surprise you? No, so people are more interested in where they're going to live than what they buy. Overwhelmingly more interested in that. Do you think we're more focused on marketing homes or marketing states and cities? What would you say? Homes. That's the level that we've gotten to, and then we've been stultified there. In fact, even the most progressive tech companies, when they came in, Realtor.com, of which I was CEO, Zillow, all they could do is further aggregate that which was aggregated. So there was 841 multiple listings that aggregated data. So these world-class billion-dollar investment into representing our industry had to stop at the level of aggregating data about homes. And so we're basically saying to the consumer, you first resolve the decision of where to live, and then when you're ready to say what type of home, then we're ready to go into action, okay? And yet we actually say we don't sell real estate, we sell lifestyles. Is the state part of a lifestyle? Is a town as a city? Now, I wrestled with showing you a few minutes of a few videos because obviously this is not something as much for you as it is for the consumer. So I'm going to ask yourself to put yourself from the prism of the consumer. Now, the first portion of a video I'm going to show has to do with New Jersey. Now, it may surprise you to know, and it's on the video, but it won't be the part that you see, the #1 state in America in terms of by the U.S. Department, you can check this out on Google, for mental health is New Jersey. Does that surprise anybody? Do you think many people in the country are saying, boy, I'm having some mental struggles, we should move to New Jersey? Okay? And yet, if they did, they'd be in a state that statistically can be validated as #1 for mental health. Does it surprise anybody here that Golf Digest a few years ago rated a golf course in New Jersey as the #1 golf course in the world? Does New Jersey evoke the sense of a golfer's paradise to anybody here? No. New Jersey is always 1 or 2 in per capita income and 1 or 2 in educational scores. Do you think that's the image that people have of New Jersey? No, the image that people have of New Jersey is because 1% of the country only goes through the worst section of the country, which caused George Carlin to say the state slogan for New Jersey should be "What died," okay? And I grew up first in Boston for 30 years, then I moved to New Jersey for 20 years, and everywhere I'd go, people would say, "So how do you like living in New Jersey?" Okay? As if that was a compliment. So therefore, if you are marketing a home in New Jersey, do you think that the perception of New Jersey has something to do with its values? So when people move to New York, they're deciding, should we drive another 40 minutes and go up to Connecticut, or another hour? Should we drive and go out to Westchester County? Should we stay in Manhattan, okay? Or should we go right there? There's New Jersey. But if somebody's been conditioned for 30 or 40 years to think that New Jersey is a horrible place to live, does that have something to do with getting home sold? Of course it does. So that creates this question. Whose job might it be to do the best job of pointing out all the reasons why it's the second most affluent state, why billionaires who can live anywhere live there? Whose job is that? Might it be the real estate community? But we don't do that because guess who we market more than our states? Who? Ourselves, exactly, okay? So I'm going to show you. So what I did is this. I was the consultant. I used to be the president of a Sotheby's company in New Jersey. Charlie Opley is going to be the president of NAR next year. And then I went on to be their consultant. And as their consultant, I was driving down the Jersey Turnpike once, and I saw a picture of Albert Einstein, and who definitely could spell Mississippi, okay? But I was driving down the New Jersey Turnpike, and I saw a picture of Einstein, and it occurred to me, the 2 most notable geniuses in America, Einstein and Edison, both voluntarily moved to New Jersey, okay? So I wrote a video, a move to New Jersey, a genius decision. Okay? Now, this is the #1 listing tool in that company. They have it at loops at open houses. They have a website, Genius Decision, because everybody else is marketing properties. And you have to ask yourself this question. Would a consumer be more predisposed to watching a several-minute video about their state or a 2 or 3 minute video about an agent driving around town on a bicycle or in their car stalking the neighborhoods, okay? Now, so I'd like to show an example of what I mean, and you can see, because I'd like to encourage all of you to start thinking, your towns, your neighborhoods, your cities, your state, because that's not what Amazon's doing. That's not what Redfin's doing, okay? That's not what the rest of the industry is doing, and if you think that that's part of the lifestyle proposition, we have to own that, and here's what you've got to do. It's 100% on the script. It's telling the story. But we have a problem when it comes to describing things, because we're in an industry that essentially seems to have only 6 words to describe every home in the country. You've heard them. Your home is beautiful. Wow. Lovely. Charming. Gracious. Spacious. And elegant. And isn't it amazing that every property in the history of the world, according to our industry, is either professionally landscaped or park-like setting, okay? And then we wonder why people don't have a great value for what we do, okay? So I want you to pay close attention in these 2 little videos I'm going to show to the scripting, because nothing matters till you make it matter, and who should be telling the stories about your neighborhood, your town, and your city, as opposed to, hi, this is John, I'm at the bakery, or hi, this is so, we've got to go beyond ourselves. Okay, let's shoot this if we could here, please. This is section 6 of 1 video.
Millions of people, after first landing at Ellis Island as immigrants, were able to call New Jersey their first home in America. Also, New Jersey was the first state to ratify the Bill of Rights, which included the freedom of religion. This heritage is consistent with New Jersey's ongoing respect for all faiths and backgrounds. A major component of the Bill of Rights that speaks to New Jersey's prominent personality is the freedom of speech. New Jersey residents are known for their willingness to speak their mind, and they're also inclined to sing what's on their mind, with a tradition that includes musical geniuses like the late Frank Sinatra, Whitney Houston, and present-day worldwide musical icons Bruce Springsteen and John Bon Jovi. It is unmistakably clear that New Jersey, with all due respect to Three Dog Night, is bringing joy to the world. It's clear that New Jersey, through its artists, entertainers, and recreational wonders, is synonymous with joy. The state represents a fun-filled, supportive, and a success-based environment, one that has developed a disproportionate number of presidents, Supreme Court justices, Olympians, scientists, entertainers, and just plain people. Given the collective joy and personality of its residents, perhaps you should imitate what the New York Giants and Jets have recently done, and what Albert Einstein and Thomas Edison did decades earlier. Make the genius decision and move to New Jersey. And finally, while New Jersey may not be the best state to travel through, it is without question a great place to visit and an even greater place to live. If you would like to share the genius decision you personally made to move or remain in New Jersey, we invite you to share by visiting geniusdecision.com.
Now, do you think people in New Jersey would think that that's a demonstration of respect for their state? Okay. I wrote many years ago, the only way we have access to people is through their concerns. So in terms of desegmentation, I don't have to worry about who's Republican, Democrat, Catholic, Irish, Jewish, Muslim, Buddhist. It doesn't matter, because there's the common denominator. The desegmented is everybody in the state is connected to their home values. That's what I want to tap into, okay? And so that's just one. Now I want to show, and by the way, and throughout the rest of the tape, it shows all the 10-acre minimum zoning towns. It's the equestrian headquarters. New Jersey has more horses per capita than any state in the country. Gee, I didn't know that. Okay, it goes on and on and on. The first baseball game was played in New Jersey. The first college football game, Princeton and Rutgers in New Jersey. This is completely the opposite of the image the whole country has of New Jersey. Okay? And what I'm here to say is this. Every town in every state suffers from stereotypes, and some of them are negative. Because if somebody said 1 and 1 is 2, 2 and 2 is 4, 4 and 4 is 8, no one would jump up. But if I said 8 and 8 is 17, you'd all yell to correct. Because people are conditioned to look and gravitate to the negative. Now, let's talk about a town. The next one here is on a town I selected. Before you play it, I selected this town in honor of where one of our illustrious guests, John Featherston and Darryl McPherson, are here. John's the founder, and Darryl's his partner at Riz Media. Darryl lives in Fairfield, Connecticut. So I've written 57 videos on towns, and I've selected this one, Darryl, for Fairfield. How many years have you lived in town? 26. So I'm going to show some of it, because this will mean more to Darryl than anybody else, and that's the whole purpose here. And you'll get every single listing as a pre-listing thing. Let's show Fairfield, Connecticut.
Welcome to this Real Estate Town documentary of Fairfield, Connecticut, made possible by Julie Vanderblue. Fairfield, Connecticut is a town consistently celebrated by Money Magazine as one of the best places to live, and in 2006, the publication rated Fairfield as the 9th highest rated city or town in America in which to live, a ranking disputed by many residents of Fairfield as not being high enough. Local resident, highly acclaimed and accomplished realtor, Julie Vanderblue, enthusiastically advocates for Fairfield's preeminence among North America's towns and communities by emphatically pointing to the importance that Fairfield places on education, by declaring, from her real estate perspective, how Fairfield not only satisfies all prerequisites pertaining to the significance of location, but that the town also supremely values the importance of education. Fairfield is indeed a most educated choice for individuals, partners, families, and businesses seeking to select a city or town to call home. Long noted for the community's scholastic prowess, Fairfield residents, unsurprisingly and deservedly, are accustomed to witnessing a very significant percentage of their children matriculate from the illustrious Fairfield school system and then gain acceptance at many of the most elite universities in the world. Fairfield's commitment to provide a superior education for all of its children accounts for its well-respected 11 elementary schools, 3 middle schools, and 4 high schools, 2 of which are private. For those Fairfield children not college-bound, the life lessons, values, and sense of community and caring learned from the overall Fairfield experience will serve them well in all of their life's pursuits. For those high school graduates who do not want to leave Fairfield to obtain their university degree, Fairfield is home to 2 highly regarded institutions of higher learning, Fairfield University and Sacred Heart University, alphabetically and respectively. While these college campuses, with their enthusiastic, earnest, and forward-thinking student populations, adds a special dimension to the town's diverse culture, it is abundantly clear that given the magnitude and multidimensional character of Fairfield, that Fairfield in general is not a part of a college town, but rather the college is part of Fairfield. Additionally, if either you or you and your partner or family have no children or have children which are grown and have left home, Fairfield also offers an abundance of educational opportunities for adults of all ages. The iconic town of Fairfield is romantically and recreationally situated on the picturesque and ecologically flourishing Long Island Sound. Renowned for its natural beauty, traditional and classic town center, and impressive mixture of strong community, commitment to culture, enviable cuisine, and possessing a dynamic interplay of seaside and countryside living. Any overview of Fairfield also needs to include mention of the town's stunning, physically beautiful, and plentiful opportunities for outdoor enthusiasts. The town meticulously maintains a sacred responsibility to preserve its fabled natural environment, as witnessed by its miles of trails, the importance of its Audubon Society, and the vast and unspoiled land reserves which the community cherishes. Rounding out its recreational landscape are the 5 Fairfield town beaches where residents, their family and friends may sunbathe, picnic, swim, snorkel, jet ski, boat, or go clamming and paraglide. The Town of Fairfield Department of Parks and Recreation maintains 170 acres of parks, 5 miles of beaches, 36 playing fields, 2 golf courses, 2 marinas, a fitness center, 31 asphalt tennis courts, amongst other important recreational facilities. The sweeping expanse of lifestyle options provided by Fairfield enable its approximately 60,000 residents to decide from a litany of wondrous communities, including the following examples. Greenfield Hill, coveted by many for its multi-acre properties and dogwood trees. The Lake Hills community, where residents can enjoy spectacular Lake Mohegan from 5 separate beaches, each possessing its own lifeguard services. Prestigious Sasko Hill, or Southport, which enjoys its own strong sense of geographical and cultural sovereignty and self-identity while still having access to all of Greater Fairfield's immense resources. The Fairfield Beach area, where an eclectic spectrum of housing from estates showcasing Nantucket-style architecture to cozy cottages all cohabit along the spectacular Long Island Sound.
I'll stop it there. I want to ask, Darryl, you live in Fairfield. What was your thoughts as you were watching this?
Overwhelmed. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Just the attention to detail, Alan, and things that I didn't even know about for the 26 years that I've been there. A beautiful job. Beautiful job. Thank you.
Am I being hyperbolic to say, did it almost put tears to your eyes?
Yeah, absolutely. No, very, extremely moving. Extremely. Thank you.
So when we do these videos, and I'm not in the business of doing videos anymore. This is I started a website years ago. It didn't make it, called Town Advisor, because there wasn't enough funding. But I ended up writing 57 videos. If you want to take over any market, this agent here, Julie Vanderblue, her team's going to do $6 million GCI this year. She's going to make almost $2 million. I wrote them from 9 different towns: Newark, Weston, Westport. Okay, this is the only place that we can go to show greater value, in my opinion, because the marketing of homes has been commoditized. But it's all in the script, because if you take out the script and you see the thing, there's an ocean, there's a beach, there's a mountain, there's a lake. Okay, now let's move on. Okay, now. Okay, the next little video we can hold it. The next little video I want to show is this. All wisdom begins by properly naming things. We right now have great potential to implode because of our choice of words. Because if somebody, for example, lives in your neighborhood that you've done business with for 15 years, and they see on a $100 million advertising campaign that if they do business with Amazon, they can receive a 25 or 20% discount when they buy the next home, do you think they might be tempted to cash in that coupon? Yeah. Absolutely. And will there be realtors that are still willing to take that business? Yes. And one of the problems is because we've been conditioned to call everything a referral. It's not a referral, it's a tariff. I'm going to show 5 minutes of a video from 15 years ago that talks about the difference between paying a referral and paying a tariff. Let's show this, please.
Hello, my name is Tracy Savage, national news anchor and reporter. Today, I will be asking and challenging the top executives of Realtor.com as to whether these threats to realtor commissions are overstated. I'll be asking them to share vital industry information and methods for responding to industry threats directed toward a vast national real estate audience.
Say no to real estate tariffs.
Mike, what is this threat? How pervasive is it?
Tracy, the reason for the threat is that the internet has increasingly become a treacherous online world. It allows powerful media companies, really for the first time, to use their money and influence to gate the real estate industry's access to consumers searching for homes and realtors online. These companies then in turn wish to sell access to these consumers to brokers and agents for 1/3 of their hard-earned commissions, effectively charging an online tariff, as AllanDalton has so aptly labeled it. The internet can be gated for two primary reasons. One is that just in the last few years, consumers have overwhelmingly gone online to look for real estate. Today, more than 75% of consumers begin their search for real estate and for a realtor online. And even though that there are millions of sites online available to find real estate information due to the power of marketing, the power of new online brands, and new techniques, new marketing techniques, which can manage consumer behavior online for the first time. As a result of this combination of things, consumers go to only a very few places to begin their search for information. And this is primarily a handful of portals such as MSN, AOL, and Yahoo, and a couple of search engines, Google and Overture, to name a few. The consumers rely on these trusted sources to direct them where they need to go. However, it creates the opportunity for money and influence to effectively control the answers they get to their online questions. For example, who are the best realtors for me to work with? These online tariff companies intend to become the first point of contact for home buyers and home sellers. They plan to use their substantial, enormous media assets to, first of all, to insert themselves between consumers and realtors. Second of all, to convince consumers that they know who the good realtors are. In addition, they wish to convince consumers that realtors are badly overpaid and that realtors can afford to rebate a substantial portion of their commissions back to the consumers. And finally, they intend to convince realtors that they have no alternative but to depend on them for qualified online leads. Allan, since you've described this as a tariff movement, why don't you explain why?
Mike, before I comment, and Tracy, on the consequences, the intended consequences behind the use of these predatory companies regarding tariff, I'd like to acknowledge for our audience the significance of Mike Long as CEO of Home Store and thus Realtor.com. Before coming to Realtor.com, Mike was the chairman of WebMD. And WebMD, as most of us know, is the foremost provider of medical services information on the internet. And Mike's vision for WebMD is going to be extended now to Realtor.com because the premise behind WebMD was to both protect consumer interest and the profession for physicians and medical people. And I'm very excited that that will happen also for Realtor.com if we win the war and win the right battles. Now, in terms of the battles, Tracy, without sounding too bellicose, it's very important that our audience understand that there's a definitional battle taking place. We hear countless realtors across the country talking in terms of their being willing to pay a referral to some of these portals of 20, 30, 35%. But it's really a tariff. And what these companies are doing, and it's very insidious and strategic, is that they're purposefully using the symbols and they're using the lexicon that we favor. It's like almost like somebody trying to attack the word love. So our industry loves the word referrals. In fact, Tracy, if you were in the real estate business instead of being a broadcast journalist, you'd probably have a business card at some point in time that would read, "I love referrals." So there's almost a primitive pull professionally to the concept of a referral. And it's similar to what some people do when they hunt. They like to mimic the sounds and the symbols of the prey that they're targeting. And that's what's happening in the real estate business right now. We have to be very careful not to allow these outsiders to define this premise in a way that disadvantages us.
Now, that was 15, 16 years ago. Do you think that was right on the money? Yes. That's exactly what's happening, and it's just going to pick up steam. It's just going to pick up steam. Now, the problem with this is that 15 years ago, people talked about disintermediation, but it didn't occur, the elimination of the middle person. What happened instead was disruption, but the disruption was only on the buying side. But that wasn't onerous because it allowed real estate brokers to reduce their classified spend. It allowed real estate teams to form because now the listing rainmaker could control the destiny of leads and hire buyer agents. Buyers don't determine the fees, and buyers don't generate listings like listings generate buyers. The only place that these third-party portals, cyberspace carpetbaggers or whatever, can further monetize their investment, their ROI, is to now take over the listing side disruption. And so what I'm going to talk about now is what I think our industry has to do to preemptively inoculate this inevitable attempt to take over first point of contact with home sellers. When I was CEO of Realtor.com, 99% of the visitors to our site clicked on Find a Home, and only 1 or 2% clicked on Find a Realtor, and they were realtors. And so that means that buyers went to the internet to search first for property. Home sellers will go to the internet to search for an agent. Okay, it's going to be a whole new ball game, which is already beginning. Okay, so let's go. Is that picture on the Say Nota? Was that up there? Or is that next? Okay, all right. So let's start with this. Vince really motivated us to begin with. He's a legend. This building, his company, his wonderful people that I've never seen any broker talk as lovingly about the people that he works with as Vince at his dinner at his home. You might say that after somebody kicks off an event that, geez, I'd hate to follow that. What a tough act to follow. Well, Vince is easy for me, an easy act to follow. Okay, in fact, he's a very easy act to follow because he's what is known as a motivational speaker. Chris Stewart's a motivational speaker. Gino's a motivational speaker. Brian Buffini's a motivational speaker. Debbie DeGroat's a motivational speaker. Tom Ferry's a motivational speaker. I'm a demotivational speaker. Okay? And so I'm the only demotivational speaker in the industry. I have no competition, okay? And that's the only reason that I'm ever asked to speak, along with the fact that I don't charge a fee because it's within the company, okay? And so how did I become a demotivational speaker? Because John Featherston, the founder of Riz Media, by the way, the only media company that doesn't hate our industry, okay? They're objective and they love our industry. They have the best content, okay? And they're transforming a lot of realtors and brokers' income because of their unbelievably strategic consumer-centric content. But John called me years ago and he asked me, Alan, I'd like you to be the keynote at the Power Broker Dinner. I said, gee, that's the August event of the year. And back then, if somebody was a speaker, there was a word before they were a motivational speaker. And I said, I'm not a motivational speaker because I recognized early on that I could never be a motivational speaker because I'm from Boston, okay? And can you think of a motivational speaker from the Northeast? No, and especially from Boston. Think Governor Dukakis. Think John Kerry. Hey, John, what's with the long face, right? And so since I knew I could never be a motivational speaker, I decided I wanted to be, as I said, the #1 demotivational speaker in the industry. So I called my daughter, who went to Princeton University, is now a clinical psychologist. I said, Ginny, I'd like to become the industry's only demotivational speaker. And can you do some research for me? Because I want to have substance. I don't want this to be a pithy slogan like we're playing games here. This is too serious. So she came back to me and she says, Dad, I did some research and I've discovered the 4 major ways that we demotivate people from wanting to do business. And if we ever are going to implode in face of all of these attempts to disrupt us by other business models, we have to stop demotivating people. And so let's go over the 4. The first way we demotivate people, if you want to demotivate people, this is the key to demotivating. Anytime you want to demotivate somebody, step number 1 is make sure you embarrass them, okay? You got that? Embarrass them. Okay, number 2, the second way to demotivate somebody is to belittle them. But if you can, try to belittle them in front of loved ones. That's the key. The third way to demotivate somebody is talk about yourself. Actually, my daughter said, what was it? Manifest acute self-preoccupation. That was the research, okay? Talk about yourself. And the fourth way to demotivate is try to get them to change their beliefs. Now, I'm going to show you examples of how this is rampant and widespread in our industry right now and how it could lead to implosion. But before that, I want to show you how far back I go as a demotivational speaker. When I was CEO of Realtor.com, I went to Nantucket to meet with John Featherston, and John helped me write this article, okay, because back then everybody was bad-mouthing Realtor.com, and if I went to an event and I talked about Realtor.com, people would start booing, and so I decided to help them even to knock Realtor.com better. So I basically did the magazine cover on Riz Media, Say No to Realtor.com. Now, this got me in trouble because at the NAR convention, they had my banner across Orlando Convention Center with my picture, and it says, don't say anything good about Real.com, and there were palm trees that cut out the .com, so it just said, don't say anything good about a realtor. And it was at the Realtor convention, so that caused a major controversy. People are so sensitive, okay? People are so sensitive. Just because they've got 40,000 realtors going into a convention center with a banner that reads, don't say anything good about a realtor, okay? You think they'd be a little bit more secure. And then what I did here is I wrote a guide. Here's all the things that you should really say to badmouth us. Realtor.com does not guarantee any leads. Realtor.com is not local. Realtor.com is too costly. Realtor.com's website is a competitor to our company's website. We have a great website, and that's all we really need. So I put all the things, because some of them, their hatred of Realtor.com was just so visceral, they didn't have the nuance to really carry their argument. And so I felt an obligation. Here's how you can really demotivate the other agents in your office, because after the seminars, agents would come up, Alan, I love Realtor.com. I'm making a fortune with these featured homes. Then why didn't you say something? Because I'm not going to have my competitors in the office do this. I'm going to tell them. It's like a captain of a fishing tip. They're not biting here. My sister Kathy says, Alan, I don't even like to give my friends the names of my babysitters, okay? Anyway, and so when I say I'm a demotivational speaker, it must be in my blood. Oh, and by the way, I made a lot more money much more because of this cover than we paid John's company, and here's why. Because I came up with an idea that didn't fly. I had to resign from Realtor.com and my whole team, even though we turned the site around, its revenue. And I went before the board for my severance package, and I brought this cover. And I'll never forget, standing in front of the board, I said, well, first of all, can I just give you a sense of what this position has put me through? This is what I used to look like. And I'll never forget, I overheard an attorney say, oh my God, okay? So my compensation package sailed right through. Let's go to the next now. How do we demotivate? Here's a list of demotivating and belittling industry standards, okay, that we have to change. Number one, all wisdom begins by properly naming things. 100% of realtors refer to the person who represents the home seller as the listing agent. Why? Because in the 1950s, in the 1800s rather, homeowners would go to the general store on a horse and buggy and there'd be a sign, list your home for sale. The homeowner was the de facto listing agent. But would you agree with me that we do more than just list the home? Do you think this definition honors us? No, it belittles us tremendously. We're stepping on our own ear holes. We're reducing our significance because a listing agent sounds like your job's over. You've got the listing. Even a buyer has a buyer agent, which suggests representational value. Okay? We're basically saying my job's over. And then we wonder why. That's why when Vince said, oh, they think they can list the home for 1%. Of course you can list the home for 1%. You can list the home for $100. We have to change our vocabulary. We've been undermining our value for 100 years, and that's also one of the reasons why about 30% of people in our industry self-identify as a realtor. You don't hear people say, hi, I'm a doctor. Hi, I'd like you to meet my wife. She's an architect. But have you ever heard people say a realtor? Because the most important thing we do is represent the home seller, and we don't even describe our role there. Again, the buyer agent at least suggests representational value. It looks like all we want to do is get listings. We've got to be a little bit more clever in disguising our self-interest, okay? The next thing we've got to change. So that should be, who's the marketing realtor? Listing presentations, what percentage of companies do you think are still training agents how to make listing presentations? What would you say? 100%. What percentage of home sellers want a listing presentation? 0. They've developed antibodies to all of this. What they want is they want a marketing proposal. Do you think words matter, though? Yes. Or is this just semantics? No. A listing presentation is about you, your company, and what you've done, a marketing proposal. Agents used to go to conventions. They'd go up and down the exhibit aisle in the scene, reminiscent of the trick-or-treating ritual with the little bags, and they'd buy a listing presentation. Because obviously all homes are alike. No, a marketing proposal is collaborative. It's about the home seller. You can manifest critical intelligence. Okay, I've got a 21-point listing presentation. I mean, it's pitiful. We even have some companies who promote the fact that they've got a name listing presentation. So we've got to change the marketing. Next one here. How are you going to select a realtor? Some agents have been trained to go into a home and say to a homeowner, well, how are you going to go about selecting a realtor? No other professional person in history would ever stoop to that stupidity. And here's why. Saying to a home seller, how are you going to select a realtor? What you're really saying is this, folks, even though you're going through a divorce and you're being transferred and you have to sell your home, that has absolutely no significance to me, because before we can start even to remotely address your issues, we first have to resolve the uncertainties and the circumstances around if I'm going to get this listing or not. So we have to kick this off with it's got to be all about me, because that's what my trainers and coaches teach me to say, okay? In other words, can you imagine a landscaper saying, how are you going to be selecting a landscaper? Have you ever met a doctor? How are you going to be going about selecting a doctor? I mean, it's just bizarre. It's bizarre. But do you think some people still do this? Because we haven't retooled our rhetoric in 50 years. We're talking to a consumer who no longer exists. Because there's been a high-tech evolution. There hasn't been an evolution in terms of communication. We're still saying things from 50 years ago. How's the market? It's unbelievable. I mean, from 100 years ago, okay? As if that demonstrates a great, profound analytical mind at work. It's unbelievable. Okay, now, the next one. Homes don't sell because of price. This is an absolute killer. This is the all-time diminisher of industry value, which allows us to possibly implode because there's not enough value if this is how we think. You see, in the 1950s, the world was introduced to the 4 Ps of marketing: price, product, placement, and promotion, from the Harvard Business School in 1957. To the rest of the world, this was an epiphany, except our industry. We said, let's jettison 75% of the Ps. The only P we want to so focus on is price, because therefore we don't have any responsibility. See, if the only reason a home doesn't sell is because of price, that means the only reason a home does sell is because of what? Price. So that leaves us as overpaid appraisers gouging the public. Okay, you can't have it both ways. And so what that has caused is this. In the history of the real estate industry, isn't it incredible and convenient that there's never been a home that didn't sell because of us? Obviously, the only reason a home ever doesn't sell is because the delusional home seller, okay, didn't capitulate to our finite wisdom on pricing. Now, if you have 50 realtors do a price recommendation, how many different prices will there be? 50. Okay, but every single home, because I've never heard in all of my years of brokerage, in all of my year of industry travels, I've never met a realtor who's ever said that home didn't sell because I probably did the worst job of marketing in history. How many times do you hear realtors say the home didn't sell because they screwed up? Do you hear that a lot? Isn't it amazing, again, to be deliberately redundant? In the history of the real estate industry, there's never been one example of a home not selling that was because of us. Because everybody in the industry is so talented, is so skillful, such a marketing wizard, such an absolute, they're like Ernest Hemingway describing the home. Okay? Obviously, homes never sell because of any deficiency, because everything, and you can have a debate. I could say, see, because here's what you don't understand. There's only one reason why a home doesn't sell, and that's because of marketing. Because price is part of marketing. Now, do we charge people a pricing fee or a marketing fee? Then why would we ever be so stupid as an industry to think that homes don't sell because price when we're not charging pricing fees? That's what appraisers charge. We're supposed to be marketing executives, and we don't even have that as the reason homes sell. But you don't have to violate your beliefs because price is part of marketing. But you can have it either way. I could have a debate. Alan, I could say, John, why do you think homes don't sell? Because they're overpriced. Well, do you think that home didn't sell because there wasn't good staging? It doesn't matter. If you lower the price enough, somebody will still buy it. Do you think that home didn't sell because it was inadequate negotiating? It doesn't matter. Lower the price, somebody will buy it. Alan, you could have 6 dead bodies in the basement. If you lower the price enough, somebody's going to buy it. Okay? And that's been the collective mentality, and that's one of the reasons why consumers don't value us in terms of that. So our game changer is homes don't sell because of marketing. Now here's the next one. Have you ever heard this one? The buyer determines it. Ever hear that one? Why do you think that get currency? Because therefore, I want you as the home seller to pay me a hefty fee, but I have nothing to do with the outcome. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. The next one. Have you ever heard this one? The market determines the price. Have you? You've heard that. Do you think some people still think that? Yes. Like you. Okay, I'm looking at you. Okay, now, no, the market determines the price. The market doesn't determine the price in real estate, thank God. Because if the market determined the price, real estate would be a commodity. Now, if you sold $1 million stock if you worked for E-Trade, what do you think your commission would be? $6. How many of you are willing to sell $1 million home for $6? I don't think so. Do you know why you can get paid more than $6? When somebody can sell $1 billion of stock, when somebody can sell billions of dollars of commodities and they make $50 that day? Because real estate is not a commodity, and the market doesn't determine the price. Because if the market determined the price, you'd have absolutely no value. And when we even think that the market determines the price, we're reducing our value. We've got to become more sophisticated. We've got to discover our greater value. We've got to change our rhetoric in terms of that. Okay, pricing. Can you imagine somebody being a sports attorney for an NFL team and saying to the owner, well, the athlete's attorney will be determining the price? Can you imagine anyone even hallucinating that they could get away with that? That's what we do. The buyer determines the price. The market determines the price, okay? Homes don't sell because of price. and then we wonder why we're not honored for our value. The next thing has to do with pricing presentations. I may not be right, but I'm convinced. Here's the way the industry is being trained to handle price. Folks, I went into the computer. This column here, this would be homes on the market. That would be your competition. Now, I'm saying this mockingly. Some people, this to them is a good presentation. This column here, this would be homes on the market. This is list of sales price. This is days on the market. This is absorption rate, because the agent never did strategic thinking. Strategic thinking in terms of this. What percentage of realtors, when it comes to their own home, overprice it? 100%. What percentage of realtors have access to all the data? 100%. What does it tell you about the value of the data? It's utterly worthless unless it's used judiciously. Okay. What percentage of homeowners have a price in mind before you even get there? What percentage of homeowners love the data? 0. What does that make you? The bearer of bad news. What do people do to the bearer of bad news? They shoot the messenger. Okay? Because we have to, instead of going out on an information basis, data basis, you've got to go out in knowledge. Folks, we'll put together 3 different pricing strategies. Pricing strategies, number 1, some of our home seller clients want to price their home based on the data, the MLS, the CMA, an appraiser. Some want to do less is more. They want to price it lower to create competition. And some of our home sellers want to price it a little higher because of the retail pricing concept that some buyers are going to want to negotiate. Of these 3 concepts, which of the concepts do you think is most suitable? See, you first have to tenderize the home seller, because otherwise we're just going out as robots being manipulated by software companies who are basically telling you how to think. They're doing the thinking for you. And even worse, we actually have 99.9% of the agents in this industry who actually have used the word comps. That's like going to a home seller and saying, let's take a look at some comparable children. There's no difference. People have lost thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars in their career because of that mistake. Anytime somebody's ever said to a home seller, let's take a look at some comps, every homeowner who's ever lived says, but they don't have 5 bedrooms. If you're John Featherston, but they don't have a basketball court in their house, okay? If you're Darryl, they're not 2 minutes to the train into Manhattan, okay? People will not accept ever that homes are similar. And we're telling people these are similar homes, and some of the times we haven't even been in the other homes. We're better than that, okay? Never use the word comps. Instead, say this. Let's take a look at properties that buyers will be evaluating at the same time they're evaluating your home. There's always a better, more honest, more logical, more consumer-centric way of saying things. Next, please. Catered open houses, it blows my mind. Come to my open house, there's going to be food. Imagine being in the hospital and overhearing your doctor, you're lying in the hospital bed and overhearing your doctor saying to another doctor, would you please come up and see my patient? I'm going to have a buffet up here, okay? I mean, we've converted the industry into a collection of gastronomic incinerators. Okay, next. Okay, listings need, I don't have time to, the absurdity of that. Supermarket carriages, I had somebody come up to me a few months ago and said, Mr. Dalton, I'm no longer in the supermarket carriages. I said, why is that? He said, because I went home, my 12-year-old daughter was crying at the dinner table, and I said, honey, what is it? And she says, Daddy, all my friends at school think you're missing. Okay, next. Your home is beautiful. I did a program, Distinctive Dialogue. We've got to raise our game in terms of describing. When somebody delivers pizza to John's house at the Super Bowl halftime, the delivery person is going to say, you've got a beautiful home. But he's not being paid $50,000, $100,000 to market the home. You've got a lovely home. I mean, give me a break. That's almost like an insult to people, that your ability to fulsomely describe a home is so limited. Is so basic, is so rudimentary that you're using words like a lovely home, a beautiful home, a gracious home, okay? We've got to raise our game. Next, explaining how you're different. Anytime somebody asks you how you're different, that's not an opportunity for self-aggrandizement. It's an opportunity to turn it back. Alan, what makes you different? Mike, rather than focus on how I'm different, I'd rather focus on how we have to make your property different. You see, I don't compete against other agents here in Omaha, but your home competes against other homes. So the way that I'm different is how we're going to make your property different. I actually cooperate with the other realtors, but your home doesn't cooperate with it competes with other realtors. See, it all has to be about the consumer, okay? Begging for referrals, okay? Some people still have in the back of their business card, I see it all the time, the sincerest compliment that somebody can pay me is to send me referrals of their friends and family. First of all, what we're basically announcing is this. We know the difference between compliments and sincere compliments, okay? All right, we make that distinction. The sincerest compliment, because we don't pay sincere compliments. The sincerest compliment is if they're going to consumer school, say in wrestling, I don't want to just pay compliments. How can we pay these people the sincerest compliment? No, you should have this. My greatest professional privilege is to serve the needs of your family and friends. See, it's always got to be turned around in terms of that. Okay, the next point here. Now, I had one of my top agents, she was more blunt when it came to referrals. Here's what she would say to to anybody. She'd say to somebody, hey, Tyron, do you know anybody looking to buy or sell? And before Tyron could catch his breath, she'd go, come on, think. Now, instead of having a listing presentation, we've created for Berkshire Hathaway Home Services a marketing proposal. We're going to redesign this because Chris Stewart is creating, along with myself for the network, a certified digital marketing designation with the unbelievable people at AdWorks, and that's going to be part of it because people don't want to go through wedding albums, okay? They want to know what you're going to do for me. We have a one-page proposal about range, reach, and influence. By the way, range is the internet, reach is IDX. It's all about influencing. That's why we also want to do a video in the town because I don't focus just on selling more homes. I focus on selling more homes for more. Let me give you another turnaround. The whole industry is talking about sphere of influence. They're not talking about how to influence your sphere. That's 10 times more important. Let's go to the last, come down the stretch here. Okay, by the way, this is the most important exhibit. Not as much in Omaha because Vince dominates this marketplace, but you got to always keep reminding the home seller that you're a symphony conductor, not a virtuoso. You eliminate the competition by including them, by showing that visually. Next. Neighbors Know Best, that's a program I developed. We don't have time to get into. Next. By the way, this is a, no. By the way, this is usually a 17-hour presentation I've condensed, and it's a 17-hour presentations with no breaks. Okay, now, the last thing coming down the stretch, okay. Here's the special sauce moving forward as an industry. Other industries have gone through changes. Years ago, if you were selling insurance, you would have been selling first burial insurance, then death insurance. Then after 25 years of the world selling death insurance, somebody figured out it would sound more positive, we call it life insurance. Good move. Confucius would like that, right? So instead of calling somebody saying, congratulations on your wedding, now you need some death insurance, okay? It's a more positive. They also changed the way that they communicate in all the textbooks. If somebody said to an insurance agent years ago, well, how many years do we have to pay for the premium? Their answer was maybe only one. Okay, that's how hard-hitting they were. Well, gee, what do I need with a $1 million policy? If I just die, my wife's just going to remarry anyway. Their answer was, what would a woman with a $1 million policy possibly want with another husband, right? So they were hard-hitting. So what happened? They went from insurance agents to financial planners. So Chris Stewart, the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, and I have introduced the Real Estate and Lifestyle Planning Guide. Why is it that people have one doctor, one dentist, one lawyer, and they've got 10 realtors? Why are they playing Russian real estate roulette? Because we still have speakers and coaches talking about databases. I could call the Democratic and national committees and say, I'd like to buy the voter registration for the state. I could have the biggest database tomorrow of anybody in Omaha. Does that guarantee my success? No, because that's data. I can buy data stripped every single way. What time people sneeze the most, okay? But guess what? We have to evolve as an industry from data basis to client basis. That's the birthright of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. But it's not just unless they say I'm a trusted advisor, because everybody and their uncle is going to be saying that. So Chris Stewart, as the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, in my last 6 minutes and 2 seconds, Chris Stewart as the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, is the single best hiring move Gino Blafari ever made as the executive of the whole Home Services and Berkshire Hathaway in Real Living. Because Chris is the only person I've met in the industry as a CEO, as a visionary, who combines both a deep resident high-tech background with a deep resident brokerage background, working with Gino, building up Intero from scratch to the 7th largest company in the country. And so Chris has introduced the concept of the forever agent. Now that's important because everybody's going to be saying they're a trusted advisor. But if you're going to be a forever agent, you have to have a forever plan. Imagine somebody being a financial planner, but they never did a financial plan. We've got to use our heads here. And so there's going to be a race on against time, because the only use of the word disruption that should resonate with you you have to do everything you can to disrupt the pre-existing relationships that exist between homeowners in your communities and other agents. That's where you have to disrupt. And in so doing, you're going to condition the consumer to see you as their client, facilitating, not just facilitating transactions, but driving them, okay? And in order to do that, you have to have a program that does it. You can't just say, I want to be your realtor for life. You can't just advertise when you're ready to buy, sell, give me a home, because that's your confession that you're transactional. You've got to be transactional in relation. So in the last few minutes, let's show you some of what Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, thanks to Gino and Chris and myself, now you have available offline, and you should be on a race. I've got to get 1,000 people with this in their hands off and online that go through a process of viewing me as their agent for life, because I'm stimulating them to do planning for life. That's the only, in my opinion, I don't want to sound cataclysmic, to me, that's the only hope this industry has. The only hope this industry has is to create client relationships instead of people thinking the internet is the emergency waiting room. That's our only hope, and this is the first salvo. This is the first act that goes in the right direction. Okay, let's go through this quickly. What better place to have Warren Buffett than in lifestyle planning and real estate planning to bring in his imprimatur, if you will, the halo effect. Then you've got Chris Stewart, a young, dynamic, charismatic CEO that is the most gifted thinker I have met in the industry when it comes to strategic thinking for a corporation. There's no one even close, and I've seen them all. And a lot of these other brand presidents, I used to look at them and say, gee, that guy is the luckiest guy since Ringo Starr to have that position. Now, let's go to the next. It talks about all the episodes. Chris talks about episodes. If you're going to be a forever agent, you have to be there for every episode of somebody's life. Next. Determine your lifestyle needs and goals. We've got to be what percentage of people in this country do you think regret not owning enough real estate at some time? What percentage have developed a real estate plan for life? 0. See, have you ever heard people say this? I'm a Ferryite. I'm a Mike. Have you ever heard that? I'm a Mike Ferryite. I'm a Tom Ferryite. Have you ever heard people say that? Do you know why? Because these great coaches, I'm a Debbie DeGroatite. No, do you know why? Because these great coaches aren't sending people pumpkins. They're not sending them refrigerated. They're getting them to do business planning, right, Debbie? And because of that, they have a profound influence on the development of human beings. We're sending people pumpkins still. We're sending calendars. As if somebody's going to get a pumpkin and say, honey, I guess we should move up. Look at this pumpkin. Okay? The next here. Step 2, next. Okay, moving with pets. By the way, I had something like this. I wrote every word in this. I wrote every word in this guide. Moving with pets. 78% of people have pets. Do you think this is important to them? How about moving with children? Next. How about lifestyle planning goals? Next. How about developing a lifestyle plan? I love it, Alan. Next. Multi-generational special needs, Alan. Thanks, Alan, for putting that in. Next. Okay, now keep going, please. At the end of it, next, these are some. At the end of it, stop right here. At the end of this, it stops anyway. At the end of the guide, there's a section where offline and online, consumers encouraged to write down your financial planner, write in your attorney, write in your landscaper, write in your realtor. There should be a race against time for you to have hundreds and thousands of people convert the idea of databases to client bases. And here's the last thing. I came up with this idea a few weeks ago. And we'll probably, John and Darryl, end up in Joe's book. He'll rip me off on this thought too, okay? The idea, we have to, as an industry, go from SEO, meaning search engine optimization, to seek engine optimization. We've lost search. No one here can control search. I used to have people come in to me and they'd say, I'm an expert in search engine optimization. I'd say, let's go to the computer and see where your company comes up. No one's going to ever win search. Our only hope is to win seek. To use technology like AdWorks to be able to go out and bring our messages proactively before they go to the internet. We will lose the listing site to search. We will save it through seek. I'm going to end 10 seconds early. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.